Lisa, do you want to tell us why maintaining healthy weight is really important in later life?
Why do you want to maintain a healthy weight? Because you want to maintain function, don't you? You want to do all the things in your life that are still fun as well as daily activities. And you need strength in your body to do that, don't you, for a start off? So maintaining a healthy weight is kind of about having that muscle function, isn't it, to be able to do that. Obviously, either way, if you're too overweight, it can be difficult to actually do the activities of daily living, especially when you start to get muscle wastage, if you're of a heavier weight as well. But also, of course, if you're very light, and then you also get muscle wastage. Again, you have the same sort of problems in becoming not as strong as you used to be. That causes difficulties in activities of daily living and fun activities as well. And actually can lead to breakages, of course, as well. If you fall, you've got your bones are more brittle, you have more chance of actually, unfortunately, having a break. So those sorts of reasons why,
and
really
ending up in hospital because of those breaks.
Exactly, and then of course things can end up in a bit of a vicious circle sometimes. So yes, absolutely. Healthy weight, really important. Yeah. There's kind of reasons, though, lots of different reasons why that is a bit of a challenge, I think, as we get older. There's kind of a number of different sides to it. So for some people, they may still have quite a reasonable appetite, but of course it can also happen where somebody starts to really lose their appetite.
So could you possibly tell us a little bit about the reasons behind this loss of appetite and what we could possibly do to prevent this?
Yeah, no, it's a difficult one, actually, because there's kind of lots of different reasons. So some of them are changes that are kind of what I think we think of as kind of a change with age that's almost not preventable. And some are very specific physiological changes that happen to certain people, but there's also some social reasons as well. So if I try to break that down then, so we've got, for most people, we get a change in our gut hormones. So the things that kind of signal for us to be full or to be hungry again. And that can change a little bit as we get older. So that's a little bit difficult to do something about. But it's also linked in with, actually, to be honest, how slowly things start to go through our body. So gut motility, as we'd call it, in other words, from eating to the time you need to actually go to the toilet, that can slow down a little bit, and that's really unhelpful to our bodies, because if we can keep that system going, then obviously once you've been to the toilet, you tend to want to have food again, you've got your appetite back. So the types of food that we have can influence
the gut mobility.
In fact, that's some of your work as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So what's your opinion about that?
So my key opinion about that is maintaining the gut health, but more than motility, it's also your composition.
So what do you mean by that?
So what happens is our intestine is colonized by trillions of bacteria, viruses, fungi, which we refer to as the microbiome.
Yes.
And the composition of this microbiome also changes in later life. So each individual has a really unique microbiome. And what I mean by this is the diversity of these different compositions, as well as the abundance, which is really important when we say you have a healthy microbiome or a healthy gut.
So when you say it varies between people then, is that something that starts really early in life? And is it affected by diet as well?
It is affected by diet. So during the early stages of life, early years, that's when your microbiome is forming and the diversity is building up. Mm-hmm. But so it starts from a little diversity and then it expands, and it remains relatively stable most of your adult life. But what happens as we get older is, so we have two, if we can classify it broadly, you have the good bacteria, which are really important. They have a number of functions. So even beyond food processing and nutrition absorption, they play a very important role in, for example, development of your nervous system or your immune system. And that's why gut health is really important in your overall host well-being.
So really we're kind of saying that this kind of maintaining our intake of the right foods is important for lots of different functions in our body, aren't we? We're sort of saying that it's important for our strength and trying to prevent frailty as much as possible, but also, as you say, to actually be able to fight off infections,
Absolutely.
And keep our immune system going.
So
as
what
well.
we want is we want to maintain that diversity and the abundance,
and
particularly of the beneficial microbes that actually do all those functions, and not the opportunistic or pathogenic ones.
Yes.
So it's really important to maintain that balance, and that's where diet plays a really important role. So your diet and microbiome composition, they're really linked.
So if I'm saying that I think fibre is important for the motility bit to try to get the hunger back, hopefully fibre's still okay for the microbiome?
It is one of the most important components there. So how our microbiome works is it can digest this fibre and produce molecules that go and signal to other parts of our body system. So it can go and signal to the muscle, brain, immune system and tell them how to function or how to develop. So dietary fibers is a key component on how our microbiome breaks it down and signals to the rest of the body. It's the variety that's really important here. So the rainbow fruits and vegetables, they have your polyphenols. So going for a variety there. The other key sources...
So hang on, the rainbow fruits and vegetables, that's the colour.
It's the colour that's really important. So you need to try and get the variety in. That's absolutely key. But the other key source of these dietary fibers could be your legumes or whole grains, which is also very important to include.
So your lentils, your
beans, some nuts.
Yeah, nuts, of course,
They're a really rich source of your dietary fibers.
So nuts are great for fibre and for protein, aren't they, actually? So
again,
as long as you're not allergic to them, great to keep those in our diet.
Or have the variety there. So I'm not saying just the cashew nuts, possibly bring in the walnuts, almonds, all of them.
Oh, that sounds nice. And they're so easy to drop into a meal, aren't they? Just to put, and it's an
oats
extra.
in your breakfast.
Yeah, of course,
Add the blueberries in there as well.
I find you can drop walnuts into quite a variety of different meals, actually.
Absolutely.
And usually go down really well with a lot of people.
It's usually we all have our favourite nuts. So the key there is the diversity. You want a balanced diet, but a diverse diet as well.
Yeah. And I guess if you've got the chewing issues as well, because a lot of people might worry about nuts from a chewing perspective or getting them stuck if you're swallowing. But you could always use things like ground almonds, couldn't you? Yeah, and put those into your meal.
They're a very good addition.
Yeah. From my perspective, there's also this sort of changes in taste and smell that we get with age as well. So this can go a number of different ways, but unfortunately, as we get older, we do tend to sort of decrease our sensitivity in terms of taste and smell. If your food becomes boring, really, sort of fairly tasteless, then it's less... You're less interested, aren't you? You've got less of a really want to eat something, and it's going to affect your appetite if nothing seems interesting. Now, people go two ways with this. I mean, unfortunately, I can see in my own family, one way of going with this is to just keep adding more salt in, using sweeter foods. It's not good for heart, is it, really? So there's other ways of doing it. I mean, we try to sort of really recommend that people use things, use herbs more. Herbs are fantastic to add more flavour in that way. Use more spices. Use your sauces a bit more. Just try and keep a balance. That's key. Balance, and a watch on those salt levels, because we don't want everyone with hypertension. And thinking about, if you notice, I guess, somebody in your family really sort of struggling, not interested in food anymore, perhaps make some changes. Nobody likes necessarily new things, but actually you can start to add more herbs and spices into the food you would normally eat, and that can sort of help stimulate appetite again without a kind of complete change to your diet. So I think that sort of things are important as well.
So lastly, what would be your top tips to possibly get the appetite back and promote healthy eating in these older adults? Yeah,
it's a good question. So one would be, as I said, the taste side of it. So using the herbs, as I mentioned earlier, that sort of thing. To be honest, though, it's the actual skills of cooking. There's the social aspects, of course, aren't they? And that are linked in sometimes with physiological changes. So, the access to shops, getting your shopping done, cooking your meals. And then, to be honest, if you find that you're cooking alone now and you used to be living with a partner, that, it's a lot of pressure on somebody to want to spend that amount of time cooking for themselves. So I guess there's also perhaps the thoughts of actually eating with other people. That can be all sorts of different ways of doing that. Lunch clubs can be fantastic. Actually, just sharing a meal with your neighbour actually can be an amazing thing to do as well. So just to pop in and actually watch out for each other a little bit. Those social sides are really, really important. And to be honest, I think if you're eating a meal with somebody else, you'll often find you'll spend more time doing it, won't you? And there's more enjoyment in it. So to be
irrespective of age.
Absolutely, yes, for all of us
it's
actually.
For all of us,
yeah, definitely, yeah. So yes, bit more flavour and taste in your meals. Definitely trying to perhaps bring that social aspect back into eating again. And then the only other thing about those nutrients we were mentioning is and we mentioned balance. The balance across the day is also important. We have perhaps this thing of the main meal of the day being really important, and perhaps breakfast and lunch or breakfast and tea being less important. But actually, if you've got a small appetite, then thinking about how to spread that across the day.
So more regular meals, but
smaller
portions.
meals, put small portions across the day can really work for some people. No longer thinking perhaps I shouldn't have a snack, because maybe if you've got a small appetite, a snack can help. And maybe
as long as it's a healthy snack.
As long as it's a healthy snack, and thinking about the protein across the day as well. Sort of, making sure there's some of it in your sandwich if that's what you have at lunchtime. Perhaps get an egg in there if you can, or a little bit of cheese, or some hummus, or something else in there that's going to give us a little bit of that protein would be great as well. Yeah, absolutely.
So the key thing is a balanced and a diverse diet.
I think we both agree on that one.
We both agree on that one.
Balance and diversity. There we go.
Absolutely.
Lovely.